Let's go to the shocking revelations that yet another inquiry into one of the most pressing issues of our time has been killed off, this time in South Australia. The treatment of gender dysphoria in young people has to be investigated. It was killed off by Peter Malinauskas, the SA Premier. There was going to be an inquiry into it, a sensible inquiry. He killed it off. Shame on him. Let's discuss this now with Dr. Johanna Howe from the University of Adelaide. Johanna, great to see you. Welcome to Outsiders. You've been fighting and pushing and raising this issue of transgender, the abuse of children through whatever means, medical, psychological, whatever. Tell us your reaction when you learnt that the Premier had killed off the inquiry into transgenderism.
Look, it's incredibly disappointing that he cancelled the inquiry on the basis that it would be too political. He said that it would get too political to have an inquiry into this issue. And he said that we should trust the so-called medical experts. But as anybody who has lived through the last 3 years knows, you can't trust the medical experts. I think we all groan when we hear those words because we know that the medical peak bodies in our country have been captured by radical activists trying to pursue their agenda. I mean, Peter Malinauskas well knows that when South Australia was debating abortion up to birth in 2021, the then Attorney General Vicki Chapman stands up in the Parliament and says, we need to trust the medical experts who tell us that under her new laws, you can't kill a perfectly healthy 35-week-old baby. And yet the first 6 months of data is in with Peter Malinauskas as Premier, and we can see that actually 8 healthy babies have been killed for a mental health reason. And we were told then to trust the medical experts. In the pandemic, we were told to trust the medical experts, but it's 2024. And all of us know that when they say trust the medical experts, they actually mean trust the activists who don't want us to think for ourselves and who just want to shut down us asking genuine questions.
Rita.
So just on what you just said about those 8 healthy babies and late-term abortion, how late are we talking there? Do you have that data?
So we are talking, yeah, we do have data. So the Wellbeing Report from SA Health has shown that these babies are aged between 23 weeks and 40 weeks. And as your listeners would know, all of us know a baby that's been born premature who has survived. We know that about 28 weeks, you've got an 80 to 90% chance of survival. There was a Japanese study that came out last year that said that at 22 weeks, you've actually got an 82% chance of survival. So these are babies that can survive. They're perfectly healthy and they're being delivered stillborn instead of just being induced alive because of a mental health reason. And the medical experts that Vicki Chapman quoted in the Parliament said, you can't kill a 35-week-old healthy baby for a mental health reason. And the first 6 months of data are in, and it's just not true. So when the Premier shuts down an inquiry because it's going to get too political and we just need to trust these experts, well, I don't buy it. And, you know, the proof is in the pudding. The first people to jump up and down to say that he made the right decision were the activists who want to shut down any debate on the gender issue.
When you look at what we've seen from similar inquiries and others things as the Tavistock situation in Great Britain, is the issue, do you think, that actually the government was afraid what they might find out?
I absolutely think that when you have a parliamentary inquiry, you can't control it in the way that you can when you hand something to a bunch of so-called experts to do an investigation. Because when the government picks the experts, they can handpick people who are going to give them a certain response. But a parliamentary inquiry is something that you can't control because then parents can come and give evidence of their lived experience. We saw this with the vaccine inquiries, that people were coming forward with the injuries that they'd experienced. And the medical experts are certainly welcome at those parliamentary inquiries, but it opens it up in a way that the government can't control the narrative. And I think Peter Malinauskas is afraid of opening Pandora's box here because this is a really big issue in our country, and it would have been so courageous of him to allow this inquiry to go ahead. But once again, we can see that these medical experts, who are really just activists, have essentially convinced the Premier to shut down this inquiry so that the people of South Australia don't get the inquiry that we need.
So just quickly, Johanna, we've touched on abortion, etc. I'll mention your petition to revoke Australia Day honours for radical abortion activists. So we'll put that up for people to go to. Transgender issue, what were you afraid that might have been uncovered in that inquiry into transgenderism, particularly as regards young people?
Look, I'm a mother of 5 and I'm someone that is concerned about the safety of our children, and I think an inquiry would have shed light on some of the practices that are going on. And you mentioned the petition. The reason I'm concerned about this is because the Australia Day Council just saw fit to give our highest honour to 2 so-called experts who have spent their life advocating to killing Australians in utero. Barbara Baird, a professor in gender studies, Bridget Coombe, an abortionist and abortion activist. She has both of them together. They've lobbied and activated on abortion up to birth. So to kill a baby so that they've got no human rights at any gestation in the womb. And these are the so-called medical experts who we've just honoured on Australia Day. Now, as a mother, as an Australian, as a patriotic Australian, to reference your conversation earlier, this is not good enough. I don't want to grow up in Australia where we honour these so-called medical experts who have a political, radical agenda that they want to force down the throats of all of us. So please sign the petition to revoke their awards, and let's just actually say enough is enough. We're sick of letting these people take control and get their way.
Well, lots there. There you go. There's a thing on your screen, a QR code. Go for it. Sign that petition. Thank you so much, Dr. Johanna Howe, and great to speak to you from Adelaide.